Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Cassie and I'm a yoga teacher here in McMinnville, Oregon. I wanted to create a video for absolute beginners to yoga. I know sometimes yoga can be intimidating. Sometimes I've heard others say, I'm not flexible enough for yoga, but I wanted to have a video that kind of breaks down the basics of beginning to practice yoga, from the props that you might need and find helpful to just some mindset and tips to get you started. So hopefully beginning yoga, you won't be so intimidated, or if you're curious to know more before you start practicing, or if you're going to go to a class for the first time. These are just some tips that I'd like to give you just to help you along the way, hopefully inspiring you to continue your yoga practice in the future. But the first thing I want to start off with today is asking yourself, why yoga? Why would you like to practice yoga? Why yoga for you? Can be for any kind of reason, and every reason is valid. It could be for fitness. It could be because your doctor said to begin yoga to help with your health and your wellness. It could be because someone recommended it. It could just be because you're curious and you'd like to know a little bit more about yoga. I'd like to say my why to why I practice yoga is I initially started yoga as another way to have activity, fitness in my body. Running was putting wear on my joints, and I thought yoga would be a great way to still move my body, but maybe in a less um, impact on my joints way, for lack of a better word. Um, But what I found after I started practicing yoga on a regular basis was not just the fitness benefits from yoga, but just my entire well-being, mind, body, soul, everything became just more clear, more connected, and that's my why to why I still practice yoga. One of the reasons. But I encourage you, think about why would you like to practice yoga? Why are you here today, watching this video about yoga for beginners? And maybe journal about it, or maybe just think about it, just kind of setting yourself up to maybe, what you'd like to get out of the video, out of your practice. But that's just my first question for you, just to kind of think about. My next tip is what you might need to start your practice of yoga. So I'm going to start off with some props and just kind of basic equipment that would be helpful if you're just beginning and new to yoga. The first prop that I think, if you don't get any other prop that I have on my list here, is a mat, a yoga mat. And it doesn't have to be an expensive mat or a fancy mat. They have a lot of mats, pretty much, and most of the stores you go to, the big department stores, many times in their fitness section will have a yoga mat. Ordering online doesn't have to be expensive. The main reason I say you need a yoga mat is because you want to have that stability. When you're on your feet, on your hands, you want something that's not going to slip and slide around. You want that stability, because if you did it on a towel, which sometimes you can, like if you're on the beach, some people practice on a towel on the beach. Sand is a different whole nother another whole nother element to where you're practicing. But if you're practicing in your home, in your living room, in your bedroom, you've got carpet or hardwood, I highly suggest a mat. That will give you that extra protection from slipping and sliding around, and hopefully not causing, you don't want to cause an injury. That's the last thing we want, is for any injuries. So if nothing else, a yoga mat. The next props that I didn't have for a long time, when I first started yoga, practicing yoga, I now realize, how much ease they bring into my practice and for my students as well, is yoga blocks. Now, yoga blocks also come in different materials, from foam to wood to cork. These are foam blocks. I do recommend you get at least two of them, because a lot of times you can use them under your palms, and it's helpful if you have two at one time. But these are foam blocks. They're pretty inexpensive online. They tend to have a little more give. So if you're going to put all your weight, say if I'm in a seated position like I am right now and I sit on this block, This is going to give me a little bit more give and cushion, and it's going to be a little more comfortable for me on this block. If it were a wood or cork mat, there's no give there. It is solid, which is helpful in certain positions or poses or movements. However, I like these foam blocks. They're also very light compared to the wood or the cork blocks. But I do like the slight give of foam blocks. It's personal preference. But if you don't have a yoga block, you can certainly use any type of big book, anything that you have around the house that's going to be thick and sturdy will definitely work for you. So 2 blocks, yoga mat. Another prop that I use a lot in my classes is a yoga strap. Now, a yoga strap, they have different lengths, they have different materials. Your basic yoga strap is pretty inexpensive online. This is where I got this one. This is a 6-foot strap, I believe. They come in like 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet. I would recommend getting, if you're going to order one, up to maybe 8-foot strap, because the extra length will just give you a little more ease, a little more length, space when you're coming into certain poses. This one certainly works fine, but if I were to purchase it over again, I would get a little bit longer one. But if you don't have a strap, you can certainly use a belt, a rope, anything that's going to have that's going to be sturdy and that is long will certainly work. So that's the other prop I recommend. Another prop I use is a blanket, and I use a blanket every class that I have. It doesn't have to be any certain type of blanket. It does need a little bit of thickness to it, because a little bit of thickness will help to support if you put it underneath the knees, if you're in tabletop position. So if you're on all fours, and let's say you have knee pain, or you've had knee surgery, or any type of discomfort in your knees, you can place this blanket right underneath your knees, and that will give you the extra support and cushion to help ease into certain movements. I also will use this to sit on. Today I have a cushion here, a big pillow to sit on, but I also, in my classes, I'll use a blanket, and I'll just sit right on the blanket, and the blanket will give you a little bit of height. When you're sitting in a seated position, whether it's cross-legged or any type of seat where you're on your sit bones here, if you're sitting on something that's a little bit higher than the floor, it'll lift your hips up, and it just makes it more comfortable. Just aligns the joints a little bit better. So I always recommend just kind of being seated on some type of lifted pillow, lifted blanket, but highly recommend a blanket. But starting out, like I said, a yoga mat is all you really need. So definitely recommend those. The next point I'd like to make is to listen to your body. If ever at any time you come into a pose or a movement and there's pain, there's like extreme discomfort, or like, ooh, that does not feel right, back out of it. Back out of that pose. Maybe you're out of breath. Maybe you just need to pause, take a few moments to have a few breaths. Maybe sit back into child's pose. I'll say that a lot in my classes. If at any point anything becomes painful, back out of it, go into a comfortable position, take a moment, take a breath, and then rest, and then reposition. Maybe try a different prop, maybe you try a different position, but you know your body best, so listen to your body. Another tip I'd like to say is breathing. So just like with any other exercise or fitness, you have to breathe, give your body oxygen during the movements, and yoga is no different. When you're going into poses, and say you're holding a pose or you're holding a movement and you're holding your breath, don't forget to breathe. I remind my students a lot, don't forget to breathe. Come back to the breath, come back to the body. Part of yoga is the connection between the mind, the body, the breath. So don't forget to breathe. Another tip I want to talk about is joints, safety with your joints, as we talked about with the blanket, supporting your knees. Also safety in the spine. with your joints. If you're moving from side to side, say you're doing twists or you're doing side bends, and you're moving the spine from side to side, up and down, always come back to center before you move to the other side. That helps align the spine. That helps to create less stress on the spine and create a healthier spine. We don't want to go from one side and just twisting all around. That just puts extra strain on parts of the body that you probably don't want to have there. The next thing I want to talk about is Shavasana. Shavasana, either you've done Shavasana or you've heard of Shavasana. Shavasana is typically done at the end of classes. Sometimes it's done at the beginning for a short amount of time. I do a short Shavasana at the beginning, and then I do a Shavasana at the end of my classes. I love Shavasana. Shavasana is basically the last position of the class or the practice where your whole body is relaxed. Now, Shavasana is typically in a corpse pose, which is the position where you're lying on your back, completely relaxed. Um, but Shavasana, at the end of class, you can be in any position that is comfortable for you. Sometimes child's pose can be done. Any pose can be done in Shavasana. But just know that Shavasana is that time to reap the benefits of the practice that you just had, to find stillness in the mind, in the body, to relax the body, to rest, to just be. And that's why it's one of the reasons it's my favorite pose. Also, meditation. It's a wonderful position to be in for meditation, which I offer a lot of times at the end of my classes. But another tip I want to give you is to give yourself grace. So this goes for, any ideas that you might have had before you came in to practice yoga, that you're not flexible enough, that you're not bendy enough, that you're too old, that you're too young, that you've never done this before, so how in the world are you going to do this? All that self-doubt, all those doubts, all those ideas that you had about yoga, I want you to leave them at the door. I want you to just pretend they're not there for the time that we're here together, and just breathe. Just listen to your body. Bring awareness to your body, to your breath. Give yourself grace. Maybe it's a new beginning. Maybe this is a new adventure. Maybe this is a new type of exercise for you. This is all new. It can be all new for you, and that's completely okay. Just give yourself grace. No one is ever an expert the first day that they try anything, and forever a student is what we always say. And our yoga teachers say we're always a student, and we will always be a student forever. So we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to know it all. Give yourself grace. And the last thing I want to say is thank yourself for showing up on the mat. That's so important. Thank yourself. You're stronger than you think you are. You're braver than you think you are. You have so much more ability than you probably think you are. So thank yourself for showing up on the mat, even if it's just for a minute, even if it's just to sit and just to be quiet and still the mind. That's showing up on the mat. So thank yourself. Thank yourself for the strength in your body, the movement in your body, the ability to do the things that you're able to do. And just always give yourself gratitude. So you are definitely stronger than you think you are. And the fact that you're here watching the video means that you are hopefully interested in beginning yoga. I hope I've been able to touch on some just beginning tips. As I make more videos and as I continue and have some classes posted, I'll definitely explain options in each pose. I love to put options for poses using props even, so that yoga feels more accessible to everybody. Everybody can practice yoga. That's what I love about yoga. There's so many different ways to make yoga accessible. So it's just not about being extra flexible and being bendy. Definitely not about that. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm glad you could join me today. I hope I've inspired you some to continue watching some videos. And until next time, thank you.